The views and opinions expressed by participants in the following public affairs program do not necessarily reflect the position or beliefs of WDEF or its staff.
Since 1954, this is Point of View, the world record-holding public affairs program produced locally at WDEF News 12.
Hello, I'm Maurice Lewis, and welcome to this edition of Point of View. How far away from poverty are you? It may seem like a question that's miles and years away from you, but there's someone here locally that's been taking a look at that. For this assignment, we turned to one of our senior producers. Donna, you were able to look at a number of things that were happening and put together some answers for us.
Well, a few, I hope, anyway. So let's see what we can do with it. Our guests today are Rob Winslow with Chattanooga Dialogues and Joy Smith with the Chattanooga Times Free Press Special Project. So you guys have been working hard on the poverty puzzle. I know that you've actually done an interview before with Maurice. So this isn't the first time we've been there, but what is the poverty puzzle?
Well, the Poverty Puzzle is a year-long look that the Chattanooga Times Free Press and Rob took together to look at the temperature of our city and do an investigation, to look at, while we say we're the best mid-sized town in America, we know that there's another story. And we were able to highlight that in a 7-part series that ran over the year.
So poverty level 2000 was 18%. Now it's 24%, and we're the greatest mid-sized city. How does that happen?
It happens in a couple of different ways, but I think most importantly, I mean, when you think of the revitalization that Chattanooga has experienced, the economic diversification away from sort of the industrial base of the last generation, that's very complicated. There were a lot of displacements that came with that. In a lot of ways, like you just said, we have the demographics of a Rust Belt city at the same time as we have cleaned up so effectively. We do have this great forward-leaning economy. And for me, in my series, the question for that has always been, it's, as there are 2 tiers of development for Chattanooga, to put it mildly, the question is not, or the concern shouldn't be that if we don't resolve these fundamental tensions in the way we're growing, then we won't be able to continue being such a great city. I think the concern is that we absolutely can, that this unevenness is built into how we're growing as a city, and the question for us going forward really is, how do we reverse this trend for the next generation?
You used an interesting but sterile word. You said displacements. That doesn't sound like you're talking about people.
My project, the documentary project Dialogues Chattanooga, has been an attempt to listen, to learn, to put together the many different sides, often are drastically different and opposed, or even just don't feel as though they overlap well enough to be able to communicate. This city is a very divided city. And I don't use words like displacement to try and dehumanize the change or the challenge that there is.
The human factor.
It's a way of secularizing, of trying to make it so people with their different experiences, with the emotion that they feel, can come and be honest with each other in a way that doesn't close us off from each other.
So when you talk about revitalization, it's a popular thing now, it's a trend. I look at it and the word is everywhere. So what does that mean? And revitalization for who? We feel, we see that there's kind of 2 Chattanoogas, and some people argue that. In fact, the research, some people said, no, they're over dramatizing the level of poverty. How do you respond to that?
Well, certainly, no, I mean, in some ways, I feel like we didn't go far enough, because we didn't even address the rural poverty that's happening just, on the very outskirts of our city, but still in Hamilton County. So I think, if anything, we only highlighted a portion of our growing poverty. And I mean, really, we have to go back to what we're exploring in our next series, is going back to an older model of what Chattanooga Venture did, and essentially looking at what we did in the past to ask the community, what do you need to grow as a city? And it's going to take us going back to the basics and saying, what can we do, and how can, like Rob said, reverse where we're going? Because if we just continue with where we're going, we're going to have a growing disproportionate amount of people, and it's only going to get worse.
I remember the first time that you were here with your colleagues, and we talked about this series, and I thought to myself, how do you eat an elephant? Because this is the task that you took on. So how do you feel about this creation that you've managed?
Well, as a reporter, you always want to, you're not actually advocating, for a solution. We're just trying to present the facts, and so it's very exciting when people take what you've written and then find their own solutions, and you start the conversation, and because that's always where it starts, is admitting that there's a problem and then going from there. So it's really actually an exciting time.
So Chattanooga Dialogues, if you say this is what I want to get at it as the director, the creator, what is it you hope to get out of this?
What I was looking for always was for answers to these impossible questions. Chattanooga has this history of staking a claim on its future, of seeking out these big, bold solutions to impossible challenges for its own future. And when I came back, I grew up here, and when I came back after having been away for 6 or 7 years, I was really, really impressed at how that was happening all over again, but again, in a way that seemed, the tensions at the core that we were just talking about have not been resolved in the process yet, and that is the work going forward.
Could
when
you
I
speak
think
just
about
a moment about what are the tensions actually?
Well, we were talking about one, obviously, sort of uneven development, poverty, and racial disparity in the city being very baked into the way that our economy has changed. For me, in my series, that was one, so the Times Free Press providing that perfect example of a community institution, the paper, really taking on these questions for the benefit of broader conversation in the community. That, along with 2 other episodes, are the beginnings of Dialogues Chattanooga being released right now. The last one published is on my website currently, is about the county jail, which has been persistently overcrowded, underfunded, understaffed in the heart of downtown Chattanooga. And now we hope, or there seems to be, a real decision that the county is coming to on how to resolve that situation in some way. And we're looking to the county commission and to the sheriff's office for answers on that in the coming weeks. I also have just this weekend published with a local nonprofit, Unify Ed, a series of videos promoting the best work that's going on in the school district. Because it's not all about the challenges, it's about raising the profile of the best work that's being done in Chattanooga to resolve these challenges. But the series as a whole focuses on innovation, the Innovation District, housing and gentrification, real estate development, the Thrive 2055 process and the way that our local economy is building itself into the global economy, and public education as the key to the future. What it all comes down to for me, how do we make this change for these kids?
Rob, so let's get a little bit granular, because viewers are saying, okay, I get it, and there's some truth here. Maybe I don't understand it all, but how do I help? So not the people in poverty, but the other individuals watching, how do they help? What is a step? What are some tangible action items they can do today to help?
I think if you're a church-going person, then there is, or there very easily can be, a group of people there that will be able to work together and magnify each other's efforts.
I think there's a lot of things.
Yeah, Chattanooga has an incredible nonprofit and philanthropic community.
I mean, for example, Step Up is getting started, and if you're a business owner, you can sign up and have, a young intern come in and you can train them up. That's in high school and in some of our impoverished schools, and that's can send them well on their way to getting training.
Go be involved with your neighborhood school. Like whatever's the nearest school to you geographically, don't be a stranger to them. Find out what the teachers in there might need to do their jobs better.
One of the reasons why there's often resistance to change is that there is not accurate information that people have in a timely manner to be able to digest what's coming and why, and then the other part, what can I do to either get involved or get out of the way?
Well, we hope that's what our work is able to do in some way.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of the feedback we got over the last year has been, you finally presented us with this information in a way we can take it to our boards, like foundations can take it to their boards, companies can take it to their coworkers, and we put it together in a way that's easy for people to digest. I mean, these are a lot of complicated, nuanced problems. And so if you present it in this nice way, then people can start to talk about it. I mean, United Way is another example.
Well, it's good information. It's good information that, and from a business perspective, you can take this to your boss, to your company. You know, a lot of people now, a lot of companies are focused on community engagement and giving back. So I would actually encourage the viewers, if you're listening, do that. Reach out to you guys and ask for this information. On the other side of this, we've had people who say, what? There's not a problem. The city is thriving. You have a lot of elected officials right now who say, you know, we still have some challenges, but we're thriving. How do you communicate that there is severe poverty in our community when you have such growth going on? You're scaling at such a level that's unheard of. Being recognized nationally for that.
Just drive a little farther outside the city. I mean, we talked to a lot of, you know, people that are hurting or either on the brink of poverty or in poverty. And you know, we highlighted some of them in our series and kind of put a face to them. And I would say if you're thinking that that's not a problem, that would be my challenge. Drive across the tracks.
One of the things that we need to realize when you start talking about people and movement and change is that there's fear.
Yes.
There's actual fear. My whole way of life is about to change, and it seems like I have nothing that I can do about it. You call it the poverty puzzle. Why did you choose that title?
Well,
interesting title, isn't it?
I mean, that's because we're not saying we have the answer. We're just saying, you know, we're presenting. There's all these different. A lot of people think that they know what the problem is. Oh, it's schools. Oh, it's a lack of job training. Oh, it's the parents. And so we tried to present each of those puzzles, as you would say, like a jobs piece, an education piece, to say, no, it's going to take the entire community coming together to piece it together. So it was a very intentional choice of words.
You know, we hear about how Chattanooga has come a long way from manufacturing, the days where we were talked about the dirtiest city, and that was huge. And I've heard people say they came back to the city after years of being gone and were just blown away at the growth and opportunity. But now we have a whole nother challenge. And so our city has to come together. Talking about the elected officials, we're still in a race with a couple of candidates. What can they do? This seems more geared towards people like us, but what can they do?
I see you look at his face. Look at the look on his face.
I certainly didn't come here to try to give advice to elected officials.
Well, I know you did.
Take a shot.
But I'd like to know, for those officials who are interested in those who,
to a lot of people.
Yeah, what can they do?
Stay accountable. I mean, election season is great for the community forums, the chance to have these kinds of debates or hard conversations.
Excellent.
That needs to not stop with election day. And when we're talking about what people can do, in large part, I hope, the reason I do the documentary series that I do now, and I came to the paper wanting to share the story that went into the poverty puzzle for the benefit of the community, because I hope that by watching my work in some way, and the perspectives that I'm able to piece together, that it gets you to a point of being more able to have the conversation, to reach out to your neighbors. I think we don't need it to all happen all at once, but be aware.
Okay.
Go.
So with that, our time is up. Maurice, we'll have to do this again and continue the conversation. Thank you for joining us. Chattanooga Dialogues, you can find them on the internet, you can find it on Facebook, you can Google it. And Joy, thank you, in the Chattanooga Times Free Press and the Programs Department. Maurice, thank you.
And your team over there, because this has been just a great team effort. Now, we're talking about math. Who's afraid of it and why? Vincent Phipps and his guest will be here when Point of View continues.
Na 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 na, I love you so. I love you, I love you. La 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 la, la 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 la.
We're here.
Yay!
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
We taught him how to hit a baseball. How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Hello, thank you for staying with us here on this edition of Point of View. I'm Maurice Lewis. Now, Vincent Phipps is here because we asked the question, it's just math. Who could possibly be afraid of it? Vincent, you went looking for some answers and found them at an institution of higher learning.
Absolutely. University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, we have our very own Hunter Haynes, who is a math student, here to talk about math anxiety. First of all, Hunter, why aren't you terrified of math like everybody else?
Well, I'm the minority, definitely. I'm one of the weird people.
I hear you. According to our educational background, we have found out that 92% of Americans have this condition called math anxiety. What exactly is math anxiety, Hunter?
Well, simply defined, math anxiety is having a bad attitude towards math.
Okay.
Just feeling negatively about mathematics. It can show itself in many different ways. It can be in psychological symptoms,
Okay.
such as having a extreme lack of confidence, or something like
Just be feeling overwhelmed by it?
yeah, feeling overwhelmed, being highly confused by something that seems easy to everyone else.
Gotcha.
In extreme cases of math anxiety, people also experience physical symptoms.
Right.
People get headaches or stomach aches when they're taking a test. I've seen people get sick because they were so stressed about taking an exam before.
When it comes to the math anxiety or the fear of math anxiety, I know that you tutor, and I know that you have a passion for math. What are the reasons that you think people are so afraid of math, and why not science anxiety or gymnastics anxiety? Why math anxiety? Why the fear?
There's not really a start to why people are afraid of math anxiety. One thing that's very frightening about math anxiety as a concept is the fact that it is contagious. So
Okay.
when someone has math anxiety, they can easily pass that anxiety on to others.
How? You're talking about in the home or in the classroom?
Anywhere. It can be passed from a student to a student. Some kids at lower levels may not want to stick out academically because maybe being very good at math isn't cool. There are some teachers who can actually pass math anxiety from themselves to their students. At lower levels of education, from kindergarten through second grade, teachers with math anxiety will be more likely to include less math material in their daily lesson plans. So the students coming out of these classrooms lack the basic skills to further their education in mathematics.
Got you. I have a question, Hunter, for our Chattanooga and our North Georgia viewing audience that says, I don't have reservations about math, I just don't get it, and I want to help my kids be able to understand it. What resources do you recommend that parents do to help their kids overcome this current or perceived math anxiety?
Well, you don't have to have the educational background to help your students with something that you may not understand.
Okay.
As a parent, you don't need to know exactly what they're going over to help them with their homework.
Okay.
We live in an age of technology. There are
They can Google it.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
okay.
There are numerous resources at our fingertips. One thing that has helped me a lot is looking at YouTube videos, tutorials of concepts that I don't understand. There are
Gotcha.
a million of them out there.
I think that's a very important point that you just brought up. In many cases, when you're in the home, one or both of the parents may not have that great of experience or memory with math. So the desire to get in and help their siblings and their children is slim. So how do you talk to parents? You might tutor the child, but how do you talk to the parents?
Sometimes all it takes is just a little bit of encouragement, being attentive to your child, knowing what they're going through. When they come home from school, ask them what they learned that day in class. Have them sit down and do their homework with you.
So basically they're teaching the parent as they go
Exactly.
along.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
If a student can teach their parent, whether the parent knows the material or not, if the student can teach the parent, that builds their confidence. And it also shows the student that the parent is there, willing to help, wanting to give them attention. And yeah.
You have chosen to pursue math as your career, Hunter,
Yes.
and you have the aspiration of receiving your doctorate in mathematics.
Yes, sir.
For those that may not have that level of ambition about math as you do, what statistics can you share with us about how low math scores may impact the hiring decisions right here in Hamilton County and Chattanooga?
Well, something that is true. And some people can say, well, why do I need to care about if I have math anxiety or not? Why do I care if my kids have math anxiety or not?
Right.
Because maybe they don't want to go into a career where they'll use math. And those careers do exist. The U.S. Department of Labor found that there are 14% of full-time careers don't use even basic arithmetic, such as addition or subtraction.
Okay.
So those do exist, but
I figured it'd be higher.
well, but at the same time, 100% of high schools require that you need those basic arithmetic skills to get a diploma.
You know, when you talk about basic arithmetic skills, I often look at some of the circumstances that exist in any neighborhood or any social strata. People who are often involved in street crimes, they know math. They know eighths,
weights,
they
ounces,
know sixteenths, okay? They know measurements. These skills, when transferable, are transferable into other job skills.
They are. Math is something that can be used anywhere. Like I said, 14% of jobs don't use it. But that doesn't mean that those 14% couldn't use it. Math is transferable. It can be used anywhere. It is in our daily lives, as everybody knows.
Hunter, if you would, in our previous presidential, we looked at No Child Left Behind, one of the policies that was implemented. What are your views about how scores may impact of, we'll pass you because you made the grade, yet we don't know if you understand the concepts of basic math. Talk to our home audience about how the concepts of math maybe have been modified based on a person's views on just being able to pass a course.
Yeah, well, that's something that does happen a lot in today's public education system, is that parents, students, and teachers, everyone is focusing on the grades. They're focusing on not making an F. They want to be able to pass the class so that they can move on with their life.
Right.
But the downfall in that is when that happens at the lower level education, from kindergarten up to, say, 5th grade, then those students who don't learn those concepts can't pass the classes at a higher level because they don't have the basic knowledge. So if teachers can take small amounts of time out of their day to sit one-on-one with students who don't understand concepts, there's a difference between failing and not understanding a concept. You can fail just by not doing your homework, but you know everything.
You know, I like the way that you're approaching this. Math is not the beginning and the end of everything. It is an important part.
That's right.
Of a solid education.
If you're looking at math in its totality, just as a subject matter course, Hunter, what information can you share with the home audience about what teachers can do if they say, I want to have so many hours in the day, have this many kids? How do you set more aside for those students who may have math anxiety? How do the teachers address making sure that the kids get what they may be missing at home?
Well, what teachers can do is they can provide the students and the parents with those outside resources so that they can understand the concepts better.
You mean the liaison for them?
That's right. One program that I use very frequently, and I recommend to anybody from ages kindergarten all the way up to the collegiate level, there is a program called Khan Academy, K-H-A-N, and it's a nonprofit organization, and what they do is everything, all their videos, all their tutorial videos, everything that they teach is 100% free because they're built on the principle that good education should be free for anybody who wants it. So they have all, and especially math. Math is their biggest subject that they have. They have all mathematical concepts explained in detail from, like I said, the age of kindergarten all the way up to collegiate level classes.
I could see where coaches could use this as valuable. How long is a baseball field? Okay, how many steps do you have to take in order to beat a ball that's thrown at 60 miles per hour? How fast do you have to be to get to first base before you're thrown out?
Your percent of your free throw attempts.
Exactly. So I would think that there are a lot of metaphors that you could use to make it more fun and to get people more interested. Oh, I can relate to the sports metaphor, but not necessarily to the bean counting.
Right. There's an uncountable amount of those things that you can do, of the things that you can do with math, and all it takes is a Google search. Practice problems for this concept and things like that.
Considering the so many different dimensions of math, there's algebra, physics, calculus, geometry, how do you identify math anxiety in its whole versus certain parts only causing people anxiety?
Usually when people do have an anxiety towards certain parts, it is as a whole. Because one thing about math is, yes, we can have different parts of math. We can have algebra, we can have calculus, we can have trigonometry, we can have basic arithmetic, but they do all interlock.
Okay.
You know what? When you start thinking about math, for people who read their Bible, it's about numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. The Bible is very, very numerical. There's the perfect number 7. Things are counted off in 2s, 3 days, the 6 days of creation. There are many things that are numerical.
40 nights.
That's right. There are many things that are numerical, and you see the repetitions and patterns of the same numbers throughout different parts of the Bible.
I'll tell a story. In Chicago, we had this one minister, Clarence Cobbs. He was also the number man. There's something called policy, and you could put a nickel down. If they drew number 7 or number 5, you might make $8 or $10. Well, the policy banker in black communities, that was the man. And Reverend Cobbs at his church would give out Psalms 21 verse, you know. So we are, you know, that's the hit number for them. But math has just so many different places when you count down for space shuttle launch and what have you, and all of the technology that goes into it. You're going to do this for your doctorate.
I'm looking to get my doctorate hopefully in the future. I'm graduating this December, and I will have a bachelor's degree in mathematics and then go on to master's school and then go on to doctorate.
That was a pitch to your employers out there that we have this real bright young guy here. And Vincent, he's going to be looking for work.
Yes, he is. I'm ready.
His instructor at UTC is sitting right here with us.
Oh, too kind. Well, thank you very much, Hunter. What are any closing thoughts you can share about anything that we need to know about math anxiety?
The key to preventing math anxiety and to help younger kids who have it is to build their confidence. Gotcha. Whether that's just listening to them, listening to their problems, helping them work through a solution to a math problem, or giving them the resources to do so. We need to build students' confidence from the ground level up.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, and thank you all. Remember, from tarantulas to chihuahuas, who's going to take care of your pets on your next vacation? This and more on the next episode of Point of View.
Closed captioning provided by the following.
Funding for this program is brought to you by Barnett & Company, specializing in tax-efficient strategies for the preservation and distribution of family wealth, offering continuous investment management with a focus on long-term strategies. Areas of service include investment, estate, education, and retirement planning. Barnett & Company, the power of compound returns over time. More information can be found on the web at barnettandcompany.com.